And Dave, let's jump right into it with the head coach, and appreciate you joining us as always. How comfortable should Eagles fans feel to have Nick Sirianni as their head coach for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it's not like there haven't been ups and downs during his time here, but ultimately, like, there's one stat for head coaches, it's wins and losses, and he's just been winning at an extraordinarily high clip since he's been here. So, I've been impressed by him, and I think a lot of times everyone else gets the credit before Nick does, and it's always tough to parse out who deserves this much credit or that much credit. Obviously, as a great roster, you give Howie Roseman a lot of credit for putting it together. The players on the field deserve a ton of it, but I don't want to overlook the contributions that Sirianni's made to this team and the culture he's helped build. I think that it has been impressive, and I think the one theme of his time as the Eagles head coach is his ability to overcome the adversity he faces. And, whether that's early in his time here, he has that awful press conference and everyone's already doubting him, and then they get off to that bad start. He has the Roots speech, the Flowers speech, and everyone doubts him again, and then they rebound, and then 2023, that epic collapse, right? Everyone's wondering, is this guy going to get fired? Early last season, we're talking like, man, is this guy even going to make it through the 2024 season? And then he wins the Super Bowl. So every time that you really start to doubt him, he comes through again. It's a well-deserved extension, and yeah, I think you should feel pretty comfortable with him being your head coach.
Dave, as we all saw, you just brought up a couple factors where early on it was kind of some, I would call it like a learning process of a press conference when he first came over here. But how much do you think he's grown to know the fan base and know and understand Philadelphia as a whole in his time here?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general he's grown as a coach, and part of being a coach is being in that spotlight all the time, being a head coach, that is, in the NFL. And it's a little different in Philadelphia. We know that, right? We've been around here long enough to know that the demands on you and the pressure on you get ratcheted up, but I think he's handled it pretty well. And, throughout it all, he's kind of remained himself. He has a unique personality, and he lets it fly, and at times it's going to be grating. At times, he's going to do something, and you go, you don't love seeing him get into a little verbal tiff with Zach Ertz after a win, and you don't love seeing him shout at the fan, but ultimately, like, he is who he is, and his players respond to him. And really, that's all that matters. He gets the most out of his players, and I think there's also this notion that, when you're not an X's and O's genius, you're not some schematic genius, maybe it's a little harder to figure out what you do. And even going into last year, where he kind of took a little more hands-off approach to the offense, I think a lot of people were wondering, well, what is he actually doing? And I think the answer is he's setting the foundation for the team, he's setting the culture, and he's filling in where he needs to. And it was obviously really successful last year, and he's going to get a chance to do it for at least a few more seasons.
We're talking to Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philadelphia. Now, he may not be, Nick Sirianni, a play-calling genius, but he is the genius behind the Tush push. Are we sitting on the eve of the final day of the Tush push's existence? And if so, how much will that affect the Eagles?
Yeah, I think we are. I think it's just been trending this way for a while. Once the debate got tabled at the owners' meetings, I was down there in Palm Beach. It got tabled, and then competition committee chair Rich McKay basically brought up the idea that, hey, maybe we'll go back to that pre-2004-2005 rule where there's no pushing or pulling of any runner. And once he said that, you started to realize, okay, there's kind of a concerted effort here, and it's going to have the momentum. And then when we hear yesterday that the Packers officially did change the language in their proposal, the first proposal was not great. It was a little too specific. And look, it's still targeting the Eagles because it's taking out this play, and that's why it came to be. That's why this proposal exists in the first place. So I find it a little disingenuous that the NFL is now basically going to say this is not a rule targeted at one team, but instead the whole league. And I think that's just them talking themselves into it and trying to give less of the appearance that they're targeting one team. But look, that's what they're doing. And I think a lot of the arguments around the rule have been really disingenuous, if I'm honest. bringing up the health concerns of a play that there's no data to support that is just, it's silly to me, but that's where it's headed. I think I have a feeling that it does have the support, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, the vote will probably come down on Wednesday. As far as how the Eagles will deal without it, I think they're going to be a good short yardage team no matter what. You know, I think the push element has helped them. There's a reason they've done it. There's a reason they created the play, but they still have a really good offensive line. They still have a really strong quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who seems to have the knack and the feel for where to slice through the line in those short yardage situations. And they also have Saquon Barkley if they want to hand the ball off too. So I think they're going to be just fine. It doesn't help them. It does hurt. It's a play that's been super effective for them, but it's also not the end of the world.
You know, Dave, one thing I learned from these pressers today is that out of almost each and every one of their mouths, the Super Bowl is over, and it's been over, and we're just looking ahead. That seems to me like this team is already focused, and they're not even in camp yet.
Yeah, and they should be. You know, it's a long grind to get just to the starting part of the starting line of an NFL season in week one. A lot of work goes into it, and if you're thinking a little bit too much about that parade or you're kind of living on that for too long, it can be dangerous. You want to avoid the afterglow as much as you can. And as much as the coaches talk about that stuff, I think this is where player leadership is really important. Guys like Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, Troy Mailata, the guys we talked to today, and then others on that team, I think it's important for them to lead by example and to be back in OTAs and to show their younger teammates that even the ones who were on the team last year, that like that's not good enough anymore. And I've been impressed by A.J. Brown talking about the need to get better offensively and to be different offensively. And he's not the only guy to say that, but it's not good enough to just try to run it back and do the same thing you did last year, because the league evolves and people are going to play you differently on defense and on offense. So you have to continue to grow. You have to continue to try to evolve, because staying stagnant is not a recipe to repeat. You have to evolve a little bit and try to keep up with the rest of the league as everyone tries to get better.
Yes, and as we try and keep up with the rest of the league and the Philadelphia Eagles, we're going to continue to lean on you for that. So we appreciate the time, as always, Dave, and we'll be talking to you about the Eagles as the offseason continues.
All right, guys, take care.
There he is, Dave Zangaro.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for watching, listening in. I want you to like, subscribe, do what you have to do to kind of stay on focus with us. Also, we also have plenty of other content that goes on here on YouTube. So go to that, like that, subscribe to that. And also you can catch us on the afternoon show, 2 to 6, Monday through Friday, 97.5 The Fanatic, 97.5thefanatic.com, and NBC Sports Philadelphia.